Having done over 1,000 episodes of Coaching Coordinator, sometimes some of our best episodes get lost in the archive, so you have to go back and take a listen to them. And one of the early ones we did was with the head football coach of Navy, Ken Niumatalolo, and he shared with us some of the ideas and philosophies that bring the midshipman success on and off the field. Enjoy this episode. Ken Niumatalolo is today's guest of the Coaching Coordinator podcast. Niumatalolo has been on the Navy staff since 2002 and has been the program's head coach since 2007, posting a record of 77 and 42 during that stretch. He sits down with me today to discuss the program culture at Navy, staff accountability, and the advantages to running the triple option offense at the Division I level. Coach Niumatalolo, welcome to the Coaching Coordinator Show.
Hey, Keith, thanks for having me.
Coach, what lessons did you learn in your early years that made an impact on your development as a coach?
What I started doing is just paying attention a little bit more in meetings and starting to learn what other positions did. I played quarterback, so really tried to learn what everybody did and, try to learn more technique of other positions. And then after that year, my position coach, Coach Paul Johnson, the current head coach at Georgia Tech, just asked if I'd be interested in being a graduate assistant, and kind of noticed that I'd, studied the game. And so I, just told my wife then that, hey, might have an opportunity to graduate assistant. They don't make any money, but told her, I could do it for 2 years, and then we'll see if I got hired. If not, if I didn't, then I would just move on. And so it worked out. I mean, I didn't grow up wanting to be a coach. I mean, but I had an opportunity to stay close to the game, but that's really how it all started.
And obviously, as coaches, we learn continuously throughout our careers. But in your 27 years, what would you point to as some things that have been key for your development as a coach?
Great question. My first position, I played quarterback, but my first position that I started as full-time was offensive line coach. I was an assistant offensive line coach. And at first when I got hired, I was like, man, that's the last thing I want to do. I want to be at Skelly. I want to be at 7-on-7 and all those kinds of things, stuff that I knew. But I didn't realize that it was a blessing in disguise for me, being able to be around the offensive line, seeing the world, learning the offense that I played under, seeing it from a different lens, and just seeing how, valuable the O-line did, and just seeing what the world did. So I thought that was, very valuable. All the coaches that you coach with, obviously Coach Johnson had a huge impact on me, just schematically, just learning option football from him. All my college coaches, Coach Tomey and Coach Wagner, had a big influence. John Robinson, I worked for him at UNLV, and I learned a lot of how to become a head coach, or just learned a lot of managerial stuff from him. I thought he was really, really good with people. And I didn't realize it at that time. I mean, you just work for people, but you just kind of pick up stuff from different people. And I just learned from him how to treat people. He was good to everybody, just everybody that, came through the building, he treated with class and respect. So I thought those were all things. And then I went from O-line to coach wide receivers at the University of Hawaii. And then when I had my first job here at UNLV, I was coaching slot-backs, all of it in the same offense. And then I became an offensive coordinator in 1997. I actually got fired, and I think that was actually a big part of my development, Keith, just from I was a young, probably cocky coach, thought I had all the answers, and probably argued too much in the staff room, didn't know when to keep quiet, just voice your opinion or your ideas, and ultimately the head coach is the boss, and if he has some ideas, and you can express it, and if it comes to a point where he says no, no is no, and I think at a young age I didn't like taking no's. And so I think all of those along the ways, learning from all those people, getting fired, coaching all the different positions in this offense. So in this offense, I've coached every position. So I got a pretty good grasp and pretty good view from different perspectives. I think's really helped me.
Speaking of your offense, what makes an offense like yours with the triple option appropriate for a place like Navy?
Well, I think it's a very selfless offense. You gotta, you can't be one of those guys, hey, how many times am I going to the run the ball or how many times I'm going to get the ball thrown to me. It's about it's about moving the ball. It's about scoring. It's about blocking for each other. It's to me, I kind of equate it to basketball. I mean, you got to be a team that's selfless. That's it's not going to be afraid to score and shoot, but also don't be afraid to give the ball up and get an assist and have just as much joy in getting an assist as you do scoring. And that's the thing with this offense. It's a team-oriented, selfless offense. But I think more than anything, Keith, the thing about it's sound. I learned this offense from Coach Johnson in 1987. Obviously, there are people that ran it before that with Oklahoma and different people that ran option football. And it's still successful here in 2017 because it's not a gimmick offense. It's based off numbers. It's based off angles. And so, that's the thing that I know. I mean, it's a sound offense.
And obviously that selfless kind of offense certainly fits with the culture of the Naval Academy. And thinking about culture, which obviously has become a hot topic today for coaches, what do you do differently, do you think, in building a culture at the Naval Academy as opposed to schools that don't attract the type of player that you do?
I think culture, some people think it's overrated. I'm one of those proponents that don't believe that way. I'm more into building culture and building team unity, building relationships than I am on the schematic side. Even though I feel from an option standpoint, I feel like I know option football as good as anybody. I feel like I learned it from the best in Paul Johnson. So I'm not saying that I don't, worry about schematic stuff, but I just feel like culturally in organizations and teams and groups, I think culture is everything. I think the strongest unit, on this planet is a family. And a family is a culture. It's built off love and trust. And all those same things, Coach, I try to build in our team. There are things that we talk about in building, talking about loving each other and trusting each other. And the great thing about it for us is these guys will have to learn all those same characteristics and same traits in the real world, in real life. It could be in combat when you're in the military, serving each other and trusting each other and fighting for each other. But I think those things definitely apply in sports. And I've tried to use all of those things they learn in the military and build off it in our culture. We spend a lot of time in talking culture as a staff. I always tell our coaching staff that if your whole meeting is all about video and X's and O's, to me it's a bad meeting. I think there should be personal stuff in there where you talk to see how people are doing. When they come in there, you shouldn't just start right away into, all right, you just turn on the tape or video. Or maybe at the end of your meeting time, take some time to talk culture, leadership, real life issues. I really believe in building culture, building men of character, but it's not something that just happens. You have to spend time on it. And just as you spend time on blocking and tackling, on coverage stuff, on blocking schemes, you have to put time into building culture. And we do that on the road, at meals. We talk about certain things after meals in team meetings. It's not just, throwing on the tape and watching stuff. We're always talking about that. Because I really believe football is the ultimate team sport, and that you got a game that everybody's job description is different, from a snapper to a quarterback to an offensive lineman to a linebacker. But everybody's job is important in order for you to succeed. So learning how to do your job to the best of your ability for the overall success of the team, I think those are things you got to talk about. And it's not human nature. Human nature is what's in it for me, and it's more I or me, and everybody's into what's in it for me. We're in team and in culture and in sports, especially at a game like football. I think it's important that you talk about how do we build relationships, how do we build trust, how do you build love for your teammate. And, we try to spend a lot of time on that as a staff and as a program.
And obviously those things are intentional. You have to work at them. There has to be some kind of a system for them. They don't happen by accident. It seems like that's what you've done with your staff, is you make that intentional in what you're doing.
No doubt, Keith. And it's every year we come out with a vision of our program. And, I really believe it always starts with what's your why. And, everybody in our, this, I guess you could say, mission of our program is everywhere. I mean, all of the coaches have it, people in our strength staff, people in the training room, people in our video department. We're all on the same page. We're all going the same way. It all starts with the why, and the why of our program is very clear. It's develop young men of character and leadership. That's our why. It's not to win games. It's not to go to this bowl game, and that's our why. Because I always believe that your why is going to dictate the what and how of your program. Because if your why is just only about winning, then I think people will sell their souls to the devil. I mean, they'll do whatever it takes to win. They'll cheat. They'll, morally they'll do things that they know aren't right just to get the W. But I think if your why is clear and if it's something with a value, with good intentions, the what and how you do things, then then recruiting is easy. I mean, you're not going to cheat. You're going to do what's right. How you practice, you're not going to do anything that's against the rules. But when your why is only about winning, because this game is a really brutal game. It's a really college football is very demanding. It's a big business. And if you forget your why, or if your why is not, I believe, centered on good principles, that's when things start to happen. That's when you start seeing programs do things that, they shouldn't be doing. So, yes, it's definitely intentional. It's definitely something. And I tell our coaches this all the time. Our staff's been together a long time. I know all the coaches and their wives and their kids and their names. I mean, we go to bowl games and, the back of the plane looks like, romper room. I mean, there's kids all over the place. And so I have great amount of respect and love for all the families and coaches. And I tell them, if you guys can't block and tackle, we'll get it fixed. If we can't catch the ball, we'll get it fixed. If we can't cover people, we'll get it fixed. That stuff will get fixed. But if you're doing stuff off the field, or if you're cheating, or if you're doing things that's going to bring a dark cloud to the academy and our program, I'll fire you. I just feel like, you got to hold people accountable. And how can you hold players accountable if you and your staff aren't held to an accountable standard? And so, those are things that we definitely talk about as a staff, and just do what's right. I mean, everybody knows what's right and wrong. Just work hard, do what's right. If it's good enough to win, great. If it's not, it's not. Then we'll move forward.
And culture obviously builds into those work habits and what you do and how you teach the game, et cetera. Your approach probably isn't the easiest, your style of offense probably isn't the easiest because, not a lot of teams at the high school level run this. So what's your process of installing your playbook with, new freshmen each year to get them on board and to start playing in a system like this?
Well, it's like anything else. I mean, you start off with fundamentals. You start off in small parts individually, at each position. Then you move into group work and into teamwork. I think it's like teaching any sport. You start off with basics and fundamentals. Then you kind of press forward. Take the training wheels off, so to speak, and you continue to keep adding. But, our system, we've been doing it for so long. The linemen start working on their basic steps and footwork like everybody else. And while everybody else, most people are working at quarterbacks and receivers are working on routes and, RPO stuff, the zone and the bubble screen or whatever it might be. We start off with all of our we call mesh work and triple option stuff and tail motion and pitch relationship and the fullbacks mesh track and all those things. And you just do it 1,000 times, just do it over and over. As you know, repetition is the greatest teacher of all, and you just kind of keep doing things over and over. But I think the thing that helps us, Keith, is, yes, it's hard at the beginning because guys are coming from different stuff. But what they learn here from day one is the same thing they're going to do when they leave here. And I think that's been, added to our success. Our staff's been together. It's the same verbiage, same scheme, and it's not different and stuff. And so what you're learning day one is the same thing you're going to be learning on a day 1,000. And so hopefully, every year you get better. And not learning to don't have to worry about learning a new playbook, every spring or every fall camp. It's the same stuff, and hopefully your retention gets better, and hopefully it starts to sink in year after year.
Coach, you mentioned RPOs, which obviously are a very hot topic in football right now. How have you mixed in the RPO along with your staple triple option football?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to me. I mean, I think RPO is option football. Just one is, it's run and pass. Where option, it's more, dive, quarterback, and pitch. Where the RPO stuff, when Chip Kelly and different guys, Rich Rodriguez and guys first started doing it, it's still always based off numbers. Whether you're, reading the end or reading the overhang player. It's option based because it's all based off numbers. How many guys in the box, and that's the same thing. That's always been option football. Option football is all based off numbers, and so a lot of the stuff are similar. We do some gun stuff too. It's not a big part of our package, but obviously everybody does it. So you try to, put in some wrinkles that way too with some, some RPO stuff. The typical stuff, whether it's the zone read with the now or bubble screen on the edge, and trying to manipulate the overhang player. So we do some of that. I think more probably than doing some of the RPO stuff that, like you said, is kind of the rage of football. What we've added, which most people do now, is just up-tempo stuff. Before we didn't do that. We don't always go fast, but we have the ability to go fast. We're no huddle. Before we'd always huddle, break the huddle, run to the line of scrimmage or jog, whatever you want to say. But now we're always at the line of scrimmage, getting signals from the side. And if we feel like, people are getting tired and we don't want them to sub, we'll go faster. If we feel like we want to slow down a little bit to give our defense a break, we'll slow down. So, of things that we've added that everybody's doing modern football-wise is probably more up-tempo stuff.
How has triple option blocking evolved for you? With obviously safety coming to the forefront, one of the issues we face in football, at least, the spotlight that the media has placed on it. How has the blocking evolved over the time for you?
Yeah, we just adjust. Whatever the rules are, we adjust. It really hasn't been that big of a deal. If they say you can't cut, then we go hit somebody in his ribs. Hit him in the hips. Right at his hip socket, And so, and if it's stuff backside that, on the scoop blocks where you have to stay up, then that's fine. It's, I think that's just part of football. You just kind of evolve, whatever has to happen, And on the perimeter, you're not allowed to do that, then we would adjust to that also. Because like you said, first and foremost, it's the safety of football. Which I understand. I hope they don't take it out on the front side, out on the perimeter, where everything's in front of people. I can see maybe eventually they'll take it off backside, which, like I said, wouldn't be that big of a deal. We've started to evolve away from that anyway, and some of the cutoff blocks that you do instead of true scoop blocks. But if they do that front side, then where do they go defensively? Do they take off tackling? Where you can't cut tackle? Do you have to stay higher than that? I don't know that either. But if it does, I guess defenses will adjust. I guess kind of my approach to it, Keith, is I really don't worry about it too much because whatever they say in their rules, hey, this is for the safety of the game we're doing it. I'm all for it, and we'll just adjust.
Coach, what are some of the common adjustments that you see from defenses in trying to stop the triple, and where does that take you in your offense? I guess we could follow up with that second part after.
Yeah, it's a great question. The thing that's definitely a benefit for us is there's really only 4 teams that run what we run. Obviously the 3 service academies and Georgia Tech, at the Division I level. There are other teams that run option football, but it's more based off their zone blocking, and where we're still a true veer midline team. We've started to add some zone blocking. It's become a bigger part of it, but we're still a veer team. And because of that, I believe it's a great advantage for us because people don't see it too often. It's not that defense coordinators don't know how to defend it, but your kids don't see it all week. It's not like the zone with the bubble. I mean, you see that every week, or the right G sweep, or the power with the power pass, or whatever, or with the now screen. Those are combinations that people see week in and week out, and so I think guys have ideas for it. Plus, more importantly, I think their kids see it every week. Where with us, I mean, you just see it once a week, and even if you practice it during the spring or whenever you say you practice it, hopefully us practicing it every day will still be better than you practicing it once a week or a little bit in the spring. And plus, you might have a drop back quarterback trying to run the option as the scout team guy. So hopefully they can't simulate it the way we run it. So hopefully that's an advantage. But we've seen different things, Keith, from guys. You line up and guys try to change their fronts, and try to do all these different defenses. But, I mean, we've been doing this for so long. There's nothing you can do that we haven't seen. And so we just adjust. We just wait to see what you're doing. Why some coaches call plays and looking down at the call sheet. I mean, we don't have call sheets. All of our guys in the box, on the sideline, everybody's eyes are fixed on certain areas of the field, where there's the front side linebacker, the back side linebacker, the front side defensive front, the back side of the defensive front side coverage, and the back side alley people. So on every snap, we're giving our coordinator instant feedback, what's happening. They're pinching, the linebacker scraping, they're rolling the cloud support or whatever it might be. And then we adjust accordingly. Just our stuff's, again, based off numbers. But like I said, our staff's been doing it so long. I think people that try to change up a lot of different things on us, they kind of help us, because then you're forced, now you're putting an onus on your players to make sure that they know how to run 4 or 5 different fronts. And if you can, more power to you, man. Then you guys really. But we feel like in our experience that guys haven't been able to put in that many fronts and be successful at doing it. It's easier, it's said than done.
Well, I think in talking about that in general, you have a system, and that's a good way to run really any offense, that you're not going to, what do I got to find on my call sheet now? I have the answers, and everybody's, like you said, trained to contribute to what is the answer right now.
I think you're exactly right. Obviously you coach, Keith, so but it doesn't really matter what you do. You better have answers. You know what I mean? You better be able to fix it in game day. Now, I'm not talking about Sunday or Monday or for high school on Saturday morning. And we're all good running the video back, and rewinding it 20 times. Oh, we should have did this. You better know your offense or defense so well that in split, real live split-second decisions. Oh, they're doing this. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's crack him. Let's do that. G-block it. Let's double-team him instead of him. You know what I mean? And those are decisions that you can only have if you know your offense. If you're trying to hodgepodge and try to pick from all different types of people and, we'll run a little bit of this, a little bit of Florida State, a little bit of LSU, I think it's hard to fix that kind of stuff. I mean, that's just my own opinion, obviously, but I think if you want to be successful, you better know exactly what you're doing, and you better know how to fix it during the game.
Coach, what's some of the best advice you've received in your career that's helped you along the way?
I've received a lot. I'm the one, I guess, that comes to my mind is don't worry about other jobs. Just worry about the job you have and do the best you can at that.
And in thinking of, a lot of guys do, young guys focus on, I got to get this next big job. What advice do you have to a young coach who's trying to make it in this profession?
Yeah, great question, Keith. Just work hard. Work as hard as you can. Obviously you got to build relationships and networking. Because I've been in this a long time, and you see guys, at different places, guys that are head coaches and guys that are in the NFL or guys or wherever, and you see some other guys. Maybe you saw a guy at high school, and it goes, man, that guy that I met at that school is a way better coach than anybody I've ever seen, and he's at this level, and probably he doesn't really care about going to the next level. Probably very content at high school, which is totally fine. If that's what you want to do, and, maybe see your family more, which I totally understand. But if your aspiration is to move on and find other jobs, obviously it's not bad to write other people and, maybe people and let them know your intentions, that if you're a young coach trying to break in. But the biggest thing I know of guys who move is just to work hard and just be a good person, because word spreads around when you're trying to look for somebody, and coaches talk, hey, of any whatever outside linebacker coach goes, yeah, I actually know this young kid, he's a graduate assistant, so man, he works his butt off. I've been really impressed with him. I've met him or whatever. And that's all you can do. Just do the best you can and just working hard, because eventually somebody will notice. Either somebody that you work playing against or working against, or somebody that you're working with. And somebody that you are with becomes, gets a head job or something, and next thing you know, hey, you know what? I want to take you with me. I've been watching the way you work. I'd love to take you with, in this position. So I think that's the biggest thing. Just do the best you can to work hard.
Coach, we can't leave this interview without talking about the big rivalry, the big game. In coaching in a game like that, how does your approach differ maybe than other weeks of the season?
It's going to sound cliche, but, Coach, it really doesn't change. It's a huge game, the biggest game, but ultimately it's still a football game. So you got to prepare the best you can, just like you would on every game you're trying to win. Obviously, it's, of great significance to our school and to their school. But you're trying to win every game. And hopefully your effort level and your preparation that you put into every game is just as hard as the Army game. It's changed a little bit this year from the standpoint of, in years past, we've had, 3 weeks or 2 weeks to get ready after our final regular season. But being in a bowl game, the AAC championship, we only had a week to get ready. So, and preparing for that game now becomes like any other game from a preparation standpoint. You only have a week. So you got to make sure that you got your ducks in line prior to that, just to make sure that you're ready to go. But the other stuff, it's really the same. You just got to, you're preparing for a really good football team and do the best you can to prepare.
Coach, I know having your priorities in order is very important to you, and I think a lot of coaches can maybe benefit from hearing this. But how do you create balance in your life between, profession, which can really become demanding, and the things that have to be important, like your faith and your family?
Well, I think a lot of it, I don't know, kid. It's how I was raised. I have things in my office, pictures of my family, obviously football stuff. But my office, I got different things in there, but it's either football stuff or pictures of my family, because it just helps me keep things in perspective that, I'm trying to win and you're in a pretty competitive profession, but the things that really matter most are my faith and my family. So I just have things around me in my office that helps me remind me of that. But they're just things that have happened in my time in coaching that it just helps me remember that, whether it's, being at conventions and hearing guys talk about their only regret is they wish they spent more time with their family. And I would just sit there and just think, man, that's something I didn't want to have that same regret, because you can't ever get that time back. Now that I'm older and my kids are grown, I can honestly say I don't have any regrets that way. I'm sure, Keith, I could have stayed and watched a little more tape. I'm sure I could have called a few more recruits, and done some more things that way. But I'm grateful that I know that I didn't sacrifice that for my family. I don't have any regrets, because, man, I wish I spent more time with my kids. I went to, all the games that I could go to. I went to my son's football games as an assistant, and my daughter's basketball and lacrosse games. When we were able to go, and when I was an assistant and our head coach gave us off and I could go to those places, I was there. And if I had to work harder to come earlier in the morning while my kids are sleeping, and so I could go back and leave at night, I would definitely do that. And so I just think, guys, this profession is such a tough profession. You just, like you said, got to keep your priorities in order. Just, you only have one family, and you can get other jobs, and football comes and goes. But your family, you have one of them, and I've just always tried to take that approach. I'm not any better than anybody else. That was just the way I wanted to do things, and I didn't want to have those regrets, when I was coaching, regardless of how many bowl games you go to or whatever you win. I didn't want to be at the end and like, oh, man, I wish I could have spent, more time with my kids or my family. I didn't want that.
Coach, the final question I have for you is one I ask of all guests. What's the one thing you would point to as giving your team, the Naval Academy, the winning edge?
Our love for each other. To me, that's really simple. Just our players love each other. That is the foundation of our program. We call it the brotherhood, but the players definitely love each other. And because of the bond and the love for each other, it's amazing what you can do when going on the field when the guy next to you is willing to lay everything on the line, all that he has for the guy next to him. It gives you a chance to be successful.
Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time with us here. I know our coaches will get a lot out of this, so thanks for helping them and your contributions to the game.
All right, Keith. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode from our archives. We will be back with some new episodes to get you ready for your season, whenever that might start. And if you are in season, we'll be having some topics that address things that will help you right now in season. Follow me on Twitter for everything that I do for coaches, including our Your Call series, where we give you real situations, real alignments from real games, and you get to make the call. We reveal on video exactly where that call came from the next day.